Hello, humans. Hello.
Is that I'm just gonna assume that it's working
It's
because I
working.
can't see anything. Um,
Oh, I'll switch it so that you're
that's
seeing
fine.
me
It's
now,
fine. You know
but
what? I don't even look at it anyway, so don't worry about it. Yeah,
I can
this is
still
this
switch it.
this is probably better because it allows me to see you in higher resolution. Oh, wait, there we are. Okay, I guess you just did it.
I did.
Yeah, it's okay. I won't look at it anyway because I find it distracting to look at myself while I'm trying to do a show.
Yes. Yes, I
So
agree.
yeah.
So we
Um,
have both had far too interesting of a past 7 days since we recorded last.
yeah, but yours is crazy. So go first.
All right, so last Friday all was going well. We finished recording. I took off the day early. I headed over to Tiny Intern's house where she and Annie Wilson, Binary Blaze, the three of us were going to watch movies, do some Christmas preparation-y stuff, and so I go over to Tiny's house and started nomming down some food. Found out I needed to go pick up Annie. Picked up Annie, and just as we're getting back to Tiny's house, and like as we're driving, we're seeing lightning going off and storms, and I'd already been warned there was a nasty front coming through. And
Mhm.
as we're like a block away from Tiny's house, all the sirens start going off. So we go down to the basement, catching cats. There was a cat rodeo that had to take place, of course, and catching dog and I'm glad we were at Tiny's house because her basement has a sofa and a bed, unlike mine that has this chair and one other chair. So it was a more
Yeah.
comfortable place to be. But pretty much as soon as we got down there, all the power, all the cell towers, everything went out. And so we're just sitting there in the dark, and then we realized we had food, and so we began power snacking. Me and my birthday queso from Qdoba had a very close relationship. And at one point, Lindsay's like, "Well, I need to go get." She realized she needed to get candles, and she's like, "I'm gonna move quickly because I hear the whistle whistle." And Annie didn't know what that meant, and
The
and
whistle. I don't know what that means. The whistle whistle?
so tornadoes. There's a high pitched whistle when they're off in the distance. You hear the high pitched whistle first.
Oh.
And then Annie thought she heard a motorcycle, and Tiny and I decided to let her believe that. So,
No,
so
that's just a motorcycle, not a tornado grinding
right.
through the city.
So looking at the path of the storm the next day, there was a straight line path that basically went along, destroyed the Amazon warehouse, destroyed a few trailer park houses, hit the bluffs, and then went straight up. And we were on the path that it was off the ground, but it was above us. So the nice thing
Oh.
about the bluffs is the bluffs make tornadoes go boink. Um, and
Oh. Oh
so
my God.
so eventually we were able to get phone enough that we're calling all the relevant humans. Kyle was with the dogs in my basement, entirely not happy that I was not home, and I just like none of our significant others were with us, and they were all a bit freaked out. And then Tiny got a hold of her parents, who were the next county over, and they're like, "Yeah, the Amazon warehouse got destroyed," and we're like, "Great,
Oh.
great." So there's a second tornado that came through on a different track, and finally about midnight I was able to get home. And on my way home I took Annie home, and I live 4 miles from the Amazon warehouse, and she lives 1 mile from the Amazon warehouse.
Yeah.
And the closer we got to her house, the more styrofoam was everywhere. Like, we initially thought that it was like insulation,
Snow.
ceiling material.
Yeah.
It was pretty much all styrofoam because
Wow.
the Amazon plant got hit, and all the styrofoam from the Amazon plant got spread over multiple square miles. And yeah. So that was a bit more exciting than one would wish for. We did get together the following night and had a redo, and everything went fine. But yeah. So that happened.
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad you're safe.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have been watching in horror as the amount of death and destruction that's happened in several states across the US.
Yeah.
And like uh tornadoes in December, that's not right.
No.
Right? Like
No.
that's not
That's
like tornado season is over. You had already
yeah.
packed away all your tornadoes and you weren't expecting to see them until next season.
Or more to the point, just like my go bag is currently a I don't know what I am bag waiting to be repacked because
Yeah.
it freezes. I pull apart the go bag, and then restock it with new everything. But
Wow.
luckily for my husband, I had battery powered Christmas lights I accidentally left turned on down here, so there was that. But
Yeah. I mean, your husband comes from the exact same part of the world that I do, and
we
we
went
do
to
not
college
have
together.
we do not have tornadoes here. We do not have hurricanes here. Uh, we are not prepared emotionally for anything like this. So I'm sure he was a wreck.
Yeah,
This is
and
scary stuff.
yeah, and yes, it was not good.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy. Well, I'm glad you're safe.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, mine is less interesting. We've got currently the highest rate in my town. We have the highest rate of COVID in the entire province. So, month after month after month for the last 2 years, I've been smugly talking about how much lower incidence of COVID we've been having here on the island because we're on an island. We're like New Zealand. And and so the COVID breached the barricades and has been running rampant on the island. And
now do
so
you know what version it is?
Delta, yeah.
Okay, thank God.
So Omicron hasn't reached us on this coast yet, but it's definitely
Okay.
over on the East Coast. It's tearing through Ontario, but it's growing so quickly it'll be here momentarily. And it's been so you're asking me like, what are your plans for Christmas? Once again, my plans for Christmas are nothing to wave on Zoom to my friends and family and chill out in the trailer and watch The Witcher. I think that's Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, that came out today.
Yeah.
I got a new sourdough starter.
Yeah, there you go. Classic COVID era Christmas holiday tradition is start some sourdough. All right.
But I do have one good mystery that I don't know if you saw me tweet about late last night.
No.
So this may be due to someone out there watching right now, and it's the greatest mystery of 2021 in my existence, which is a small one.
Mm-hmm.
I had at one point yesterday heard the dog alarm go off, and I ran to the front door because I was expecting a bunch of stuff that I needed to wrap up for people, and no one could see, and so I skedaddled everything away into hiding. And as I was getting ready for bed last night, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go open those, and one of the boxes was a form factor that I wasn't quite expecting, and I was like, oh, maybe this thing I ordered just came in a different sized box than I expected. So I'm opening it up, no receipt, no label, no card, and there is a box of space knives. Like an entire set of knives that have nebulae and it's Hubble images on knives.
Wow.
I don't know where they came from.
So if you're watching or listening and you sent this to Pamela, thank you. Tell her who you are.
And I am so confused. Like, I didn't think I was the kind of person that inspired people to think knives.
Knives, yeah.
Yeah.
From space. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, we should do our job.
Yes.
I'm sure John is getting a little anxious. We need to get into the show. Although it's going to be so we originally had Mars on the docket, but last week we had said that we wanted to do a year in review, talk about what's coming up in the new year, because there's a lot of amazing, exciting stuff that's coming in the new year as well. So we're going to do that and push off the Mars conversation into the new year. This is the last episode of 2021. Then we're going to be on break. So
And to all my staff who are just like, why wasn't it in Trello? It was in Trello. I just forgot to save it so anyone other than me could see it.
right. Okay. So did I overwrite you when I saved it in Trello?
What was that?
I think I did. I think I overwrote. So I changed the name in the YouTube and in Trello. So I think we're covered. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And but like no one's getting blamed, and people need to just come to expect this kind of mayhem from us at all times. This is one of the perks and risks of working with me and Pamela.
Yeah, we do have a bit of chaos.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
It's funny. Before we start, Nancy said to me one time, she's like, like in the beginning when you would just come up with ideas and just go, it freaked me out, but they all sort of worked out. And so now I just roll with it. Like, I'll tell Nancy, this is what we're doing now. Nancy Atkinson from Universe Today. And she'd be like, okay, then. Sounds good.
The only time it left me confuzzled is we, in very rapid order, went from Skype for everything to Google Hangouts for everything to Slack for everything. Yeah. And it was just like, now I'm across too many platforms, and now I have Discord and I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and the problem, of course, is as you start these, that's the big lesson I've learned, is as you start these things, you leave these remnants, these ghost towns behind you in your wake. And so
speaking of ghost towns, tonight the Bad Astronomy Universe Today CosmoQuest forums are going to go down as I do a major upgrade. So we're going to be doing an exorcism.
That is a beautiful example of a community being carried forward from place to place quite well. So I think
the software that's actually needs
the software
needs an exorcism.
Yeah, that is some old software. All right, let's get on with the show.
Okay, I am
when you're ready.
Pressing record. I am recording.
Wait. Okay, I am also recording. It's the right mic. Yep. Okay. Astronomy Cast, episode 625, 2021 wrap up. Looking forward to 2022. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser, Cain, publisher of Universe Today. With me, as always, is Dr. Pamela Gay, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I am doing well. It is a weird year, and it just keeps staying weird. So we're going to do a retrospective on the weird and look ahead to the weird, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I hoarded all the weather weirdness earlier in the year, and you came in with fury sort of just in the last couple of weeks with a tornado tearing your town apart.
Yeah.
Glad you were safe.
Yeah, we were completely fine. All of my friends completely fine. Just a whole lot of mess to clean up. And we had a high wind event afterwards that blew most of the mess away. So yeah, sorry everyone east of us.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. I mean, you had an Amazon warehouse sort of demolished in your town, but there's just this scar across, I think it's Kentucky. 400 kilometers, where the storm passed and unleashed, I think, 70 separate tornado events in the area. At least 100 dead, hundreds injured. The property damage is incomprehensible. Yeah. And so I'm really glad that you and Kyle and your family and your friends and everybody working with you got through this unharmed. And here's to a future, like that's it for tornadoes hitting your town now for a while, I hope, because that was pretty scary.
It's about every 8 years we get one. 8 years ago we had one that actually went 2 blocks that way past us. And there was a Facebook post along the lines of, if you don't hear from me, here's where to look for my body.
Oh, oh,
So, yeah,
yeah,
it's the Midwest. You just have to take it on the chin, I guess, and
yeah.
keep going.
All right. Well, so on that note, we've reached the end of 2021, and this is the last episode of the year. So let's look back at the big space events of the last year and talk about what we're looking forward to in 2022. So 2020, when we're just looking at space and astronomy.
Yes.
2021 was pretty amazing, with possibly the best news happening after we record this show. So there's a weird little gap where there's going to be a giant uncertainty, and people listening to this episode will watch in real time. But we'll get to that in a second. We'll include that in our 2022. So what are some of the big events that you were excited about this year? Why don't you offer one, and then I'll do one.
There was a helicopter that didn't crash and burn the way I really thought it would based on my RC airplane experience. That
Yep.
little helicopter is just doing an awesome job. So here I'm talking about Perseverance and Ingenuity, which landed and are now traipsing their way around in a really cool floodplain and taking in minerals we haven't seen before.
Oh, I should stop for a break. And we're back. Yeah, I mean, Perseverance, I think that is definitely the biggest news of the year so far. Depending on what happens with James Webb by the end of the year, it'll launch. But Perseverance, you've got a twin of Curiosity, but it has landed in the most interesting place possibly on all of Mars, a place that is clearly acted upon by water for vast periods of time, and it is right in the heart of it, and it's equipped with this helicopter to prove that helicopters can fly on Mars this time around. Maybe in the future you'll see it doing more science work and assisting the rover itself. How great a job has Perseverance been doing so far?
It's amazing. The first rock it tried to dig into, it picked entirely the wrong rock, and it just ended up creating a crumbly mess instead of collecting samples. And I think all of us had a moment of, but the next rock it dug into, it was able to successfully collect the sample, and it's been collecting samples ever since. And what's amazing is it landed next to basically I'd say a no man's zone, but it's a robot, so a no rovers zone, I guess, that was just too hazardous sand trap wise to try and go through. And because of Ingenuity, they were able to successfully explore it by having Ingenuity cut across the dangerous sand to the other side. And it's a Disney buddy movie just waiting to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, Perseverance wasn't the only spacecraft sent to Mars this season. We also had the Chinese Tianwen spacecraft and the lander, as well as the United Arab Emirates sent their Hope mission to Mars.
Yes.
So you got a huge collection of spacecraft arriving at Mars at the same time, and it was great to see pictures from the Hope mission, but also this unique perspective on Mars coming from the Chinese rover with a different suite of instruments on board than Perseverance and Curiosity.
And I think that the news has largely ignored the Chinese rover simply because it isn't the same shiny, pretty pictures that we're getting out of NASA, and they're not all in the public domain. So we essentially have to wait for the Chinese scientists to release a image here, an image there. But it's out there in one of the geologically more interesting areas of Mars, near where we've been able to see with the InSight mission various quakes going off, in an area where there could be, I wouldn't say active volcanism, but recently maybe active volcanism. And so we have all these different perspectives right now. Now, the one thing, though, that I think the press has picked up on is China still has their rover on the far side of the moon, and it recently spotted a boulder off on the horizon, which is one of the least scientifically interesting but most amusing on Twitter discoveries of the year.
Well, it looks like a cube.
It does.
And so on the horizon, it's like, I forget how far away it is, like tens of meters away from the rover. And from that perspective, it looks like a cube. I'm sure when it gets close, it's going to look like a rock.
Yeah.
But so far, it looks like a cube. The other thing that's been incredible, this is a piece of news that actually just broke just in the last couple of days. And I actually think it's probably the most important piece of news that's come out of Mars this year. And this is that the European ExoMars mission has detected water, significant amounts of water at the bottom of the Valles Marineris Trench on Mars. Did you hear about this?
I heard about it, but I don't know as many details as you, I suspect. I personally have been doing things like following they've figured out Sputnik Planitia. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the bottom of a valley.
Yeah. So the ExoMars was able to scan the regolith at the bottom of the, I forget how you describe the chaos. How do you say it?
The chaos terrain?
Yeah, it's this chaotic terrain near the Valles Marineris, which is the deepest valley on Mars and really the deepest valley in the entire solar system. And what they found was they were able to detect the presence of hydrogen and oxygen coming out of this regolith, and they calculate that there could be up to 40% of the material in this area is water. And so you've got down at the bottom of a valley, at a place where the atmosphere is thicker, a large amount of water where you're protected from cosmic rays. It's kind of like the perfect place to go explore, maybe even set up some kind of long-term habitat on Mars.
It sounds amazing, and it really is starting to feel like the more instruments we use to look at Mars, the more different ways we discover water. It looks like a desert, but it's a desert the way Antarctica is a desert. There's still glaciers. They're just buried.
Yeah. So we had some other launches of some other spacecraft in 2021. We had Lucy, DART.
And those are really the big planetary missions where we can now look forward to, in several years, finally getting to see what these Trojan objects are leading and trailing Jupiter. Not at the same time. It'll take a while to get between those 2 points. But these are collection areas for objects that have come in from the outer solar system and kind of gotten trapped there. It's a temporary place, and so whatever is there hasn't been there very long and hasn't hopefully been dynamically changed very much by where it is. So that's going to be a completely new set of data on some of the most interesting and least studied objects in our solar system. And then DART's just gonna go push something.
Yeah.
And this is
for
just science. It's my favorite story in terms of just giggle worthiness. There is a perfectly harmless asteroid that has a moon going around it. And we can see exactly how long it takes this moon to go round and round. And we're going to give it a push with a spacecraft. And that should change how long it takes it to go round and round by about 10 minutes. And so this is the kind of thing where we are in no danger. We cannot put ourselves in danger. And And we get to move a rock, we hope. I mean, it could be an OSIRIS-REx kind of consistency, in which case we just go join the ball pit of rocks. But that's still science, and it's awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
I want to giggle every time I think about it.
So we had a lot of really interesting space flight happen this year as well. So the Chinese launched their own space station.
Yes, and they've
Tiangong.
had multiple crews go to it as well.
Yeah. They had the first female spacewalk on Chinese female spacewalk. We saw both Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin finally launch human beings on a suborbital trajectory, which was quite impressive. SpaceX launched a crew of 4 out into high Earth orbit. We saw,
and they did science, and they were commercial flight, not NASA flight.
It really feels like 2021 is the year that space tourism legitimately showed up.
Yes. And it showed up to the point where the FAA is like, okay, we're no longer giving y'all wings. Because for a while, there were commercial space astronaut wings that were created to incentivize people going to space. And now it's just sort of like, and you get a wing, and you get a wing.
Everybody gets wings.
And with so many people getting wings, they're taking them away. Instead, you now just get your name listed starting in 2022 on a website. So kudos for spending millions of dollars to go to outer space. Here is your name on a website.
Yeah. And I mean, some pretty cool names, like William Shatner went to space. The daughter of Alan Shepard went to space. Obviously, the billionaires went to space. Boring. But then you had the Japanese billionaire just flew to the International Space Station and is frolicking on the station as we record this episode. It is quite joyful to watch him play on the space station and have such a good time. I am a little jealous, I gotta say.
Well, and I mean, the poor guy basically bought the first Starship flight to go around the moon and pledged that it was going to be filled with artists and probably expected to be flying by now. And this is a reasonable second. It's a reasonable second. Maybe.
All right, we're going to talk about some more events in 2021 in a second, but it's time for another break. Now, what about astronomy in 2021? We had a couple of observational stuff, but nothing that I was able to reach. We had a total solar eclipse. It was only visible from Antarctica. There's a comet actually in the sky right now that could be visible to the unaided eye.
It is
in the next
not
couple
yet.
of days. Not yet.
There was Neowise. We have to remember Neowise.
Was that this year? Or was that the year before?
I don't know. It's all Blur's Day, actually.
Yeah, I know it really is. It's totally Blur's Day. But I mean, I think that we got a lot of really interesting, a lot of great data on supermassive black holes. There was a lot of interesting developments in dark matter. There was some incredible imagery taken by a lot of these telescopes from Hubble. Like Hubble went offline and then came back online, which was great.
That was terrifying.
We saw the great images. But I think the field that pushed the furthest this year was in the field of radio waves.
Yes, I do have to pause though for a moment and say, for a lot of people, it was the return of Aurora Borealis. The northern and southern lights finally came back. The sun is getting active again. It's only going to get better with time, but we need to acknowledge that like mid-latitudes, when they didn't have clouds, we're actually able to enjoy the sky at night with beautiful, beautiful things, including Steve, which people keep saying they've understood. But you're right. It really has been an amazing year for professional researchers working to understand active galactic nuclei, looking for planets. Heck, we found a planet in another galaxy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
galaxies without dark matter, pointing to dark matter has to be real and not gravity. It's the theorists are actually winning this year.
Astronomers have found planets of ever more increasing speed around their stars. They found one that goes around its star every 8 hours,
And
which
we've
is
also
pretty
found them
mind-bending.
and we've also found them at distances we didn't think they belonged at. There was a binary system that a massive 10 Jupiter-sized planet was found hanging out where it would be the outer part of the Kuiper belt in our own in our own solar system.
Yeah, yeah, and you've got this like a star that shouldn't have planets
Yeah.
with a planet that shouldn't exist at a distance that we have never seen before, and it's all there. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. It all exists. Yeah, it's so, but it's funny. It's kind of hard to now go like, oh, let's talk about the planets that have been discovered because there have been thousands. I mean, TESS has just been turning up hundreds and hundreds of planets. The Kepler data is still turning up planets, plus all these other ground-based observatories have been turning up planets as well.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I now no longer even read the press release when someone announces the discovery of a planet. Like
I
I'll skim the title, but I won't generally go any deeper because there's just so many planets now.
I'm waiting for the one that says, and this list contains the 5,000th, I can't even say the word, number 5,000 of the confirmed planets, because we're just edging up. I feel like we're 2 or 3 publications away from it. And being able to say that we've gone from 9 to 8 to 5,000 known planets is kind of awesome.
Yeah, right now we're at 4,884 planets known, with another
Yes.
just shy of 8,000 candidates. And of those, 3,600 are actually planetary systems with multiple planets in it. So just to think that we're at this point now in the process of knowing of so many planets, it's absolutely incredible. All right, well, we're going to talk about what's coming up in, I guess, in the last week of 2022 or 2021, and then what's coming up in 2022. But it's time for another break, and we're back. All right, let's address the elephant in the room.
JWST. Yeah. So one of my more on brand tweets that I spotted was last night. It was announced that the press conference about the launch date for the delayed telescope was delayed. And as we went into recording this episode on December 17th at 4:30 on Eastern Time, we still don't have an update. Last we heard, there was a communications issue between JWST and its rocket. They were pushing for a launch on December 24th.
Yeah.
The European Space Agency had a tweet that has subsequently been deleted confirming launch on the 24th. Rumors on the internet, because of course there's rumors on the internet, are that NASA wanted a big announcement and ESA just jumped the gun. But NASA needs to read the room. We are done with big announcements. We just want news in real time. We want past this pain. Rip the Band-Aid off.
I've been really enjoying the updates on James Webb. Like we found out when the booster arrived. We found out when the upper stage arrived. We found out when the telescope arrived. We found out when they unboxed the telescope, when they mated the telescope to the upper stage, when they stacked it on the booster, enclosed it in the fairing, like every step, when it was fueled. It's been great to follow each play by play as we lead up to this momentous event, and there have been delays for sure.
And there have been things that went wrong,
things that went bump,
things that went Boing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Schrodinger's telescope. It may or may not launch in 2021. Once it does launch, there's going to be, they're calling it 30 days of terror. My guess is it'll be closer to 6 weeks of terror and a lot of strung out, potentially drinking heavily astronomers. I'm not going to the AAS meeting this year because
Yeah.
plague.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really sad I'm going to be missing all of the gossip associated with this telescope, assuming it does launch prior to AAS, because I'm sure everyone's going to be trying to find out information that nobody has.
Yeah. 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 No, you know, we're not going. We're not sending anyone to
Yeah.
any of these events. So we're gonna watch it all online with the rest of you. But
Yeah.
here's to a smooth, safe launch of James Webb, and for it to reach its perfect orbit and travel safely and easily out to the L1 Lagrange point.
So as astronomers, we're not supposed to be superstitious. It's just one of those things.
Yep.
But my great-grandma always said, and she ended up having to elope, so I'm going to go with this. Great-grandma always said, a bad wedding leads to a good marriage. And here I'm really hoping that a bad mission prep really leads to an excellent science mission.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's cast our eyes forward now into 2022. And what are some events that you are looking forward to in the next year?
Well, so skywise, there's really nothing awesome going on. There's like annular eclipses and partial eclipses in places that aren't thrilling for the sun. There's going to be 2 lunar eclipses that we can see from here in North America, but just nothing super stands out other than the eternal hope for an amazing solar flare that does no damage, but looks magnificent. Beyond that, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, the Vera Rubin Observatory. It looks like, according to the latest information, that they're not expecting to be fully commissioned to do science until 2023, but I'm hoping that we're going to start to see more and more information coming out of it, with the science centers going online, with full instrumentation integration going on. I know that they're working on testing. I want to see that first, not fully functional, but showing that the system actually delivers signal to the computer's data. I want to see that.
Yeah. We so some of the big events that are coming up. Obviously, the biggest one, I think. Oh, I don't know if it's the biggest one, but there's been a couple that we have all been waiting for. One is we're going to see the test flight of the Artemis. We're finally going to see the Space Launch System fly, probably in February, and it's going to be carrying the Orion capsule. It's going to go out beyond the moon. It's going to follow a trajectory that's roughly similar to Apollo 8, bring the capsule back to Earth.
Faith.
I'm just stating what we've been told. I'm not including my own criticism and what I really think is going to happen. So that's what we've been told. So we'll see. And that, of course,
I read earlier today, it looks like they're going to have to swap out one of the engines on that. So.
Oh no. Okay. But still, I mean, there aren't a lot of things left to do. We've seen a full fire test of the whole rocket. We've seen tests of the capsule. Everything has been stacked up. So there isn't a lot left to do in order to launch this monumental rocket. But then, as sort of a completely different paradigm, we saw the test of Starship flying to 10 kilometers and then landing finally after many of its brothers exploded. And so we're going to see, in theory, we've been told early on in the year, we should see the first orbital flight of Starship, a fully reusable 2-stage rocket, monster rocket.
These are amazing. The folks at NASA Space Flight, their tank watchers are always out there looking for every little change, and progress is being made. The one thing I think we're all nervous about is there's rumors of Raptor engine delivery issues, but if they can get everything going and launch one of those giant boosters with a Starship atop, that opens a whole new era for space flight.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to see the launch of the Psyche mission, which is going to be sending a spacecraft to a metal asteroid,
Yes.
possibly the core of a destroyed planetoid. The Indians are going to take another crack at landing on the moon with Chandrayaan-3, which is exciting. The last time their lander crashed, it was really unfortunate, and so this is another shot at, which I'm really looking forward to. We should see the first launch of the Ariane 6, which is the follow-on rocket to the Ariane 5, which, like the last Ariane 5 launch is going to be James Webb, and then we move into the Ariane 6.
And what has me excited is they're making such good progress at retiring all of the old rockets, both the Russian, Soviet-designed ones that had a lot of hydrazine fuel, as well as the Chinese ones. And so we're finally starting to move to a point where our rocket fuels are a little less deadly. They have the side effect of they are no longer as shelf stable. You can't fuel them weeks, months in advance. You need to fuel them and keep topping them off until you launch them. But it's nice to know that it's going to be safer for everyone in the space industry to be working near these rockets.
Yeah, and the dream, I think, is to use like complete reusability on these rockets.
Yes.
And I think that's, Musk has said that SpaceX's plan in the future for Starship is to actually make the fuel right out of the atmosphere. We'll see how feasible that is at a large scale to fully reuse fully feed a rocket all of its fuel, but we'll see.
And an Electron. They're supposed to catch an Electron next year. That's going to be wild because they're using a helicopter to catch a falling stage of a rocket. All right, continue. I'm sorry. I'm just excited.
Yeah, no. And I think on that, we saw the announcement. This is back in 2021. We saw the announcement of the Neutron, which is Rocket Lab's version of a fully reusable 2-stage rocket. And it's going to be on the small end. It's going to launch like 8,000 kilograms, not the 100,000 or whatever the super heavy in the Starship is going to be able to do. And so we could very well see, if they can pull it off with a smaller rocket. Now they're not planning that for, I think, 23, 24, but if they can pull that off, then there's no reason to not make a fully reusable 2-stage rocket at this point. There should be nothing else flying at that point. Well, you know what? We've gone on quite a long time, and I think we've run out of time.
It's true.
So I think we need to wrap this up. Everybody who has listened to us over the years, thank you so much for following us year after year. I hope 2021 was endurable. I hope 2022 is better, and I look forward to regaling you with adventures of James Webb in the new year.
Okay. Anyways. Moving beyond those thoughts, I do want to give a special shout out to a bunch of our patrons over on patreon.com/astronomycast. You allow us to pay Nancy, Rich, Allie, Beth for all the things they do that keep us organized and going and produce our audio, video, and web content. This week, I would like to thank David, Robert Wegner, Alex Cohen, Scott Bieber, Justin Proctor, Jeff Wilson, Matthias Hayden, Niall Bruce, Gregory Singleton, the Lonely Sand Person, Tim McMacken, Paul L. Hayden, Nate Detweiler, Kenneth Ryan, Cooper, Paul D. Disney, Stephen Shewater, Alex Rain, Benjamin Mueller, Karthik Vekatraman, Omar Del Riviero, Don Mundus, Michael Regan, Dean McDaniel, Janelle Duncan, Aaron Segrev, Mark Wittick, Ninja Nick, Bung Man McBluntsmoke, Moose and Deer, Jeremy Kerwin, Matt Rucker, J. Alex Anderson, Abraham Cottrell, Michelle Cullen, Jim McGeehan, Anti-User, Bruce Amazine, Shearsome? It's a whole lot of letters. John from the Tenenbaum, Dwight Ilk, Dustin Ralph, Philip Grand, Father Prax, Mark Stephen Raznak, GeForce 184, Brent Nearnop, Rachel Fry, Kimberly Reich, and Gabriel Galfin. Thanks, all of you, so much, especially those of you with pronounceable fun names. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And then they saved.
And then they saved.
All right.
I'm not sure which one I'm more pessimistic about, SLS or JWST.
You should be more pessimistic about SLS.
I hope you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, Ariane rockets have flown before.
Right. I'm not worried about the Ariane. I'm worried about the origami spacecraft that went twang.
Sure. Did you see the new NASA X-ray observatory that launched just a couple of days ago? Did you see the animation of its crazy unfurling?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it's got this, it had its instrument, so it has to get the detector array farther out and its big long boom. And so it was folded up almost like a double helix into the front of the spacecraft. And then when it launched, this thing rotated out and stretched out to its full size. Plus its solar arrays folded out and everything worked perfectly. And so it felt very complicated and it was very satisfying to watch this thing work perfectly.
And that was built by a small, coherent team over a relatively short period of time with everyone working in the same units.
I don't understand what you're talking about. All right, we got some questions. Hal McKinney asks, would James Webb be able to see a galaxy redshifted beyond what we currently think of as the age of the universe?
No.
The max distance of 13.7 billion light years. No. So there's a bunch of mistakes in the question, which I need to untangle here. So the distance to the cosmic microwave background radiation, the light has been traveling for 13.8 billion years, but that place is actually 46.5 billion light years away because of the expansion of the universe.
If you use one set of cosmology.
Sure. But the bottom line is that the cosmic background is the beginning of the universe. It is the earliest time that light could escape out of the universe.
It is the beginning of the observable universe. It is 400,000 years after the beginning of the universe.
Yes. Good point. And so you just and the thing that's kind of great, the thing I love about this is like every second that goes by, if you imagine like the cosmic background is sort of the scream of the first time light could finally get out. It's like, yes. And then each second goes by, you're seeing. Now, this stuff was all released simultaneously across the entire universe.
Yeah.
It's just that every second that goes by, we're seeing a wider and wider sphere of this, the hoop and holler of light finally being able to escape. It's just that it took that time for it to travel.
I'm looking to see what questions. Okay, so Neowise was 2020. I goofed that one.
Okay. Galaxia asks, what are some of the secrets behind James Webb that people don't know?
There's a full-scale replica of it that gets dragged around by NASA to put on display different places on a semi-truck that's super expensive. They had it at South by Southwest.
Yeah, we hung out in front of that telescope. But I guess that I'm interpreting the question like, what are some of the biggest things that James Webb is going to find out?
we don't know yet. That's the thing about telescopes, is their most interesting discoveries are always something different than what you expected. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I will concur to that. I mean, think about the incredible discoveries made by Hubble.
Yeah.
It goes on for pages. If you just like wrote them down in point form, the new knowledge that was added to our understanding about the universe that we didn't even know were questions beforehand.
And its primary motivation, one of the two most often cited in older documents that I've come across, are figuring out what the heck is up with planetary nebula and what is the Hubble constant. We still can't answer those two.
These are the jobs of Hubble. Like Hubble had
Yeah.
had several jobs. These were two of them. Hasn't done that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing with James Webb is how did the first galaxies come together, and what's in the atmospheres of interesting extrasolar planets.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to looking inside more molecular clouds.
Watching planets and star systems forming.
Yeah. And the air compressor just came on. Sorry for the weird background noise.
Powell Zersky's asking, what do you mean simultaneously? Was Einstein wrong after all? No. There was the universe was opaque for the first 400,000 years of its life. The entire universe. And then it had cooled down to the point, it was ionized. It was just like the interior of a star, of a red dwarf or red giant star. And then it had cooled down below that point of ionization when all the light was finally transparent and light could move. So,
and if we could travel 46 billion light years away, we'd still see cosmic microwave background radiation, but it would be a completely different pattern because we're seeing a different set of the irregularities, because it was every single point in space gave off this radiation in all directions. So the cosmic microwave background that we see is due to our place in the universe. Everyone sees cosmic microwave background. They're just seeing their own bubble, essentially. It's like divers underwater with a headlamp. Your headlamp only lets you see so far. Well, in this case, the light coming towards us instead of the light illuminating and reflecting back is what we're dealing with.
I always think about it like, I mean, that's a great example, or just like walking in fog.
Yeah.
That you're walking around in the fog and you can only see out to a certain distance in the fog in all directions. Now, is it possible that there's a clearing in the fog that you happen to be in and that is following you around perfectly as you walk around in the fog? Maybe, but more likely, probably not. And that is just, this is what it looks like to walk around in fog. You're always seeing the same view, but you're actually seeing different fog particles.
Yeah.
TP Seeker asks, how many Starlink satellites is Elon planning to have in total? How many would be able to see looking in any direction?
Thousands. I don't remember the total constellation.
42,000.
Thank you.
Yeah.
42 is the answer to everything.
Yeah, I guess so. Isn't that so? Is that so? I guess that that's the first question. 42,000. Not to mention the Chinese, Amazon, OneWeb, and the Russians, and eventually others. There will probably be hundreds of thousands of satellites in the sky a decade from now. How many would you be able to see looking in any one direction? So with the unaided eye, 0. With a telescope, I've heard like 1 in 10-ish will be satellites.
Okay, on to happier things. Zenshine9 says, question, Earth water, new study maybe from sun? Can we talk different water in universe? Blows my mind. So yeah, water comes from so many different places, and we're still trying to figure out exactly where our water came from. We know it's not comets because their ratios are wrong. But yes, it's looking like dust that has been weathered by sunlight could be a source of Earth's water.
So have you heard about this news about it coming from the sun?
Well, wait, the water's coming from the sun,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
that I hadn't. I just heard
Yeah, this is
about the
brand
dust
new.
weathered by the sun.
No, so well, it's kind of weathered by the sun. So the thought is that essentially the solar wind, the hydrogen coming from the sun, is combining with oxygen in
Yeah,
dust and even on Earth and turning into water.
yeah, that's the one I read. I just read it as
Yeah,
weathered.
yeah.
So yeah.
There's a scratching sound coming from you. People think it's your hair hitting
Oh
your
shoot,
microphone.
it is my hair. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Lots of hair.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry. Much hair.
Here you go. Can you ask, has space journalism changed not this year, but since you two first started reporting on it?
Since we first started reporting, yes. Has it changed this year? Not so much.
No.
We're all just desolately sitting at our keyboards. It's the technology. When we started, the two of us were just talking over Skype. And the idea of anyone ever seeing me was an alien one. And yeah, I think we've both had to figure out how to like get better with age because of the advent of cameras.
But I mean, the sort of the process of journalism, I don't think it's changed, but if anything, it's gotten way easier because now we're considered a lot more legitimate than before. And so, I mean, I can talk to anybody. Like, I can literally pick up the
Yeah.
phone and schedule an interview with any person I want in any field. I can talk to astronauts, I can talk to astronomers, I can talk to researchers, anyone. And that just shows the legitimacy that an online publication has been able to garner, which is quite incredible.
The other side of it that has changed is things like Dr. Z's or Buchan at NASA tweeting out information in real time from meetings periodically.
Yeah.
The ability that social media has given us to know things faster, but not always more accurately, has made it so that we need to be significantly more careful in saying, here is where I saw this. We have to be better at citing our sources, and then we also have to be way better when we're doing more lasting media to look up our sources better. Dr. Bill Jeffries, I don't know if you're out there listening, you've caught me a couple of times where I followed a source that it turned out wasn't as definitive as I thought it was. And so it's getting harder because anyone can put information on the internet.
Yes.
And you never know who's putting the latest office gossip on the internet versus being a definitive source on the internet.
Yeah, like, did you see that picture of James Webb falling?
No,
Did you
I
see
didn't
this?
see that one.
So yeah, so people had shared this shot of like when it was being craned up and getting ready to be put on top of the booster. There was someone had photoshopped the image and it was falling and sort of a little bit blurry as it was falling. And I had a couple people ask if this was real, and just like, oh no, it's not real. Don't worry, it's fine.
Luckily, it's not real.
Yeah. They used a better carabiner than that, but no, I think like that's the biggest thing. It just took 22 years for our work to become legitimate.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be in this place where we are finally on almost a completely equal playing field with the more established old world media people. Because I mean, there aren't a lot of people left who are able to deeply report on space and astronomy and specialize in it. Like,
Yeah,
there's us,
Miles
there's you.
O'Brien, Alan Boyle.
Well, Miles O'Brien isn't doing this work anymore.
Well,
So
yeah, that's
Alan
true.
is,
And
but
they're
there's
starting to retire. Like Rick Feinberg is actually, in theory,
Yeah.
retired now.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing the names change, and with them,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say there's
Yeah.
probably at this point 5 websites that really specialize in space and astronomy stuff that aren't affiliated with NASA or ESA or something like that.
Yeah.
And all of the brain power in to do this job is huddled within these sites. And I'm the head of one of them, and I'm recording from my trailer. So, haven't quite hit the big time yet. But
You are getting
one
a
of
new
these
house
years,
built, so you've
yeah,
hit
shop
the
anyway.
middle. You've hit the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, we've reached the end of our hour, so it's time to wrap things up. So thank you everyone for watching us today, both on YouTube and on Twitch. Thanks to all of the moderators who keep things under control. And I hope all of you have an amazing,
And
safe holiday. And we can't wait to see all of you in 2022. And Pamela, as always, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to work with you again another year as we continue cataloging humanity's understanding of the cosmos.
It's a pity we won't be seeing each other at AAS, but I'm really glad the last trip I took is when I got to see you. So
Yeah, 2 years ago now.
Here is to hoping that 2023 is our year.
I don't like it. I don't like its chances.
All right. So
All right.
I will see you next week. No, I won't. I'll see you
year.
next year. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.